may not be able to tell, I have a bit of an unusual setup today. I've got like a card sitting on some books by the window because the natural light was just way better for filming a sketchbook, so if it looks a little bit dodgy, that's why. I also forgot to paint my nails like properly or like fix them up before the video I was going to, but then I forgot. Last time I got like a bunch of comments about how jacked up my nails look, but just like try to ignore them and focus on the sketchbook. So this is my new sketchbook. Sketchbook Tour number 3 is here. Last time I said that I was going to work in this sketchbook, which is the same as like my first sketchbook tour, but a different like color version thing, but the same brand. And I just didn't end up liking it that much because after I got used to working in this sketchbook, which is like much smaller, the size just didn't really suit me anymore, and the paper was a bit like too soft and textured than what I was used to. Anyway, but I did start sketching in it, so I'll go through those sketches first before I get to the main sketchbook. So these like, every like 4th page was graphics paper, like lined gridded paper, and I just used those pages for some notes and stuff because I didn't want to waste them. But on the blank pages I started sketching, and these ones are some concept sketches for a band poster that I was working on. So I'll put the finished version, I'll edit that in so that you can see how it went from sketch to reality. So yeah, that's how I started the sketchbook, and I went on to do all of the classic artofpan drawings with biro and highlighter. And this was around the time that I went on exchange to the Netherlands, and those of you who follow my channel closely will already know that because I made a bunch of like vlogs while I was there. I was there for 5 months to study animation, so this is around the time that I left. So I think you'll notice throughout the sketchbook, especially the second one that I'll show, the development in my style and the way that I was drawing changed quite a lot once I started animating. So yeah, that's a little fun fact, just like for some context for the drawings, I guess. But yeah, so then I went on and did some like ink stuff, and I took a couple of Polaroids while I was traveling in LAX, and then this is like a little alleyway that had some cool lighting but didn't really show up in the Polaroid because, you know, flash and everything. But yeah, this is with a brush pen and some Copic markers, and, you know, the classic nude woman in a funny pose. These are with Copic markers and a brush pen again. And these ones are with a mechanical pencil, I think, and highlighter. And some more brush pen stuff, like getting some more graphic shapes and stuff in. And with pencil, just some like notes throughout, I guess, and a little bit of coloured pencil. But yeah, the sketchbook is not, it's like quite messy and stuff. Oh, this is a blind drawing I did of, so blind drawing is like you only look at the person, you don't look down at the paper. And I did one of those for my friend Chloe, who I met while I was on exchange. She was on exchange from Australia at the time, also doing fine arts. While I was doing animation, she was doing fine arts, and this was her blind drawing of me. And then the rest of the book is basically like some figure drawings and stuff that I did while I was at this figure drawing like night class thing that I went to with some friends that I made in my animation class. And it was like at this club basically, except one night instead of it being a club, they put a nude model for people to draw, which was pretty cool. So yeah, these are like really short sketches from that, and the rest of it is, oh, this one's quite nice, I quite like this one. But yeah, the rest of it's still blank because I don't know, you just don't, if you don't like the sketchbook you're working in, then you sketch less, and yeah, that's a bad thing. So I got a new sketchbook, which is this one. I got it for €3, I think, at the Hema, which is a Dutch like retail store, so it was cheap as fuck. And it's got white and brown alternating pages, which is pretty cool, and like tape back, so it's pretty easy to open and lay flat and draw on both pages, which is really nice. And then I just like drew on the cover plenty. Yeah, So yeah, it was really cheap, but it did me just fine, like especially with the white and brown pages. I quite enjoyed using it. Unfortunately, because I did buy it in the Netherlands, I can't buy another one now because that store doesn't exist here in New Zealand, and it would just cost too much to let it like be shipped here. So yeah, fortunately can't get another one of these, but it was really enjoyable, and if you do have a Hammer where you are, I recommend it. It's surprisingly good for the price. So yeah, there you can see the starting date of when I started the sketchbook, 16th of November 2016, and I started classically drawing some nude ladies with a brush pen, and I got some Posca markers, which are basically like paint markers, and whenever you use them on any surface they just show up opaque, which is really fun, and those are the ones that I used to do the cover with as well. And they are quite expensive, but I think I've got like 4 or 5 colours: white, blue, orange and pink or something like that. But yeah, no, they're really good. I recommend them. They're really fun to use. Alright, these sketches I did with biro, which is quite fun, just like being covered with foliage. But yeah, good start I reckon. And used the pink Posca to just sort of like map out the background. So basically what I used for my last 2 sketchbooks to do stuff like that was a highlighter to try and like make the sketch really pop off the page. And for this sketchbook I mostly used Poscas for that because they're just so opaque and nice. This is a storyboard that I did for my storyboarding class while I was in the animation course, and the assignment was to do a storyboard for Little Red Riding Hood. And I did a storyboard where she's sort of like in the stomach of the wolf and then cuts her way out and stuff. And I did a better version of the storyboard a couple pages later that I'll show. This is also around the time that I met my now boyfriend Arnold, who was in my animation class. And yeah, this is when I was just sort of getting to know him and I was drawing him. And someone should make a tally, maybe I'll make a tally post editing me of how many times I drew Arnold in this sketchbook, because it's quite ridiculous how many times I drew him. Anyway, but I did these in like a black pen, which is quite nice, quite gestural stuff, and a brush pen for this one. So yeah, Arnold again. And here's the better storyboard that I was talking about. So I just used a black pen, like brush pen, to get more contrast to make it more readable, and then got that red in there. So yeah, she like pushes her way out of the stomach and cuts with this knife, which is pretty badass, and then walks away victorious. So yeah, here are another couple drawings of Arnold, plenty. And this is a drawing I did of Faye, who's another girl in the animation class that I made friends with. It's kind of cool, once you go on exchange you make friends with all these people on the other side of the world and you still stay in contact with them and everything. So every time that I'll travel from now on I'll have people in all sorts of places to come visit, which is really fun. So yeah, this is just with pencil and Copic markers. And then there's this peach butt drawing. I actually did the figure first and then made all of her weight on this arm and realised that, you know, that doesn't really make sense. The ground is here and then her arm wouldn't reach it, so then I drew this cat underneath, which is quite sad really, because now that cat's getting squished to all hell. Here's some green drawings, and I made this character, and then of course the next thing I did was draw her naked. Some like bucket list stuff that I wanted to do while I was still in the Netherlands. I forgot to tick them off, but I did do most of these. And this was around the time that like the new Pokemon game came out, so everyone was playing Pokemon, and I did a little drawing of everyone being real concentrated. That's Arnold playing Pokemon. This was cool because I realised that one of the coloured pens that I had was almost exactly the same colour as this Copic marker that I have, so I used those to make these sort of like flesh toned sketches, and they look pretty cool. Arnold got a new jacket, so I drew Arnold with his new jacket, and this is a drawing that Arnold did actually, and he's got this really like cute style, so yeah, I recommend you check him out if you want to. I drew this guy smoking a cigarette and then fucked up the hand completely, so I did a few more practices with hands just to like fix that up. I didn't like this half of the page apparently, so I just ripped it out, as you do. That's Arnold again. This is a storyboard that I did for the like perspective assignment that we got at school. So we had to do this assignment where we had a floating camera basically flying through the room. So I'll put like my final animation here post editing, so you can check out what it turned into. But yeah, I did this like storyboard first so I could see what shots I wanted. Here's a drawing of Arnold again, and just like drawing in class. And this these are sketches of one of our teachers that we had, and I thought he had like quite an interesting silhouette, like with his hair tied up like that. So yeah, this is with the Poscas, getting like some cool colours in there. And this one's with Biro, sort of weird like surreal thing going on, and getting some texture with the black brush pen. This is another drawing of Arnold, where he's like surprised, I guess. Surprised by this demon lady. Then we made some jokes about the way that like anime characters look in profile, because I think it's so silly how they have their mouth on the sides of their head like that. This is some character design that I did for our 2 for 12 animation, and this is an animation that Arnold and I made for the TV show 2 for 12, which is this Dutch game show. And it's basically like general knowledge quiz, and one of the questions in each round have an animated like accompaniment. So part of the question was this witch, so I did some drawings of what the witch could look like. And yeah, I'll put the finished animation here. It was shown on national Dutch television, so that was pretty cool. This is a character that I made based on like my high school persona, where I was a very frustrated and angry teen wearing this like type of uniform, and it's quite a fun character because her face is quite like expressive and stuff. But you can tell like the style is already very different from my last sketchbook, where I was trying to make it more stylized, because that's like what's more realistic, not realistic, like it's easier to animate, like more logical. If this character is simpler, it's just easier to make it move. So I guess while I was still learning the basics of making a character move, I wanted to make my style a bit simpler so that it wouldn't be so difficult. Because if you imagine like me trying to animate something like this, it's quite ridiculous. So anyway, the better I got at animating, the more I felt like I could revert to my natural style. But it was fun experimenting with some more stylized stuff, because else it gets quite stale, you know? Like trying to work within the same style the entire time. I don't know if any of that made sense. I just sort of did a stream of consciousness. Oh my god, stream of consciousness just now. But yeah, here's more of that character. Yeah. And this is like an inside joke that we had with some friends. We listened to this song Deantown by Wolfpack all the time. Like literally someone would put it on every time that we hung out. So yeah, I made, from Deantown I made Jeantown, and then like Cleantown, and then one of our friends has the last name McLean, so I drew him like McLean Town. And this one only makes sense in Dutch because it's like ik heb gezien town, which means I have seen. Anyway, yeah, it's a pretty lame joke, but I just decided to do some sketches while I was in the train. This is a character that Arnold made, so I did a little sketch of him, and Arnold again. But yeah, this character that he made, I decided to give him a dog, because I thought it'd be real cute. And here's some more sketches of him, and in the story, or like in, you know, his OC. So, it's so cringy calling a character an OC, I just get deviant art flashbacks. But anyway, he loses his arm, and then he managed to fashion this like water hand in the place of it, and he did a pretty cool animation of how that works. I'll put that here. If you're interested, you can go to his blog and like look at more of his stuff. And now we're approaching the first like brown paper section, so this is when I really utilized the white Posca marker to try and get some brightness into it and really like make the characters pop off the page. And yeah, get those abs popping. This one was drawn with reference, and this one wasn't. I just did a little like biro sketch of a couple that was in bed and didn't want to leave because it was too comfortable. She says, no, 2 more minutes. These are some sketches I did with a Copic marker, I think, first, which is the brown, and then I refined it with the black pen and went in with the white Posca for some highlights. This is that character again, the high school character, but this time a little bit more close to my natural like drawing hand. like a little bit more realistic. And again with that Posca, I think it works quite well in this case, just to draw the eye to the right areas. These are some more drawings of her, like gradually getting more naturalistic, I guess, like her body proportions are starting to get more real. And this was around Christmas time, and I spent Christmas with my uncle in France. So this is my uncle and my cousin, and they were playing soccer in the backyard, and both of them had their hands in their pockets, which I thought was quite funny, like the most casual soccer game ever, just kicking around a ball, nonchalant. So I decided to draw that. This, you know, classic, just every time I don't know what to draw, just refer back to this naked woman trope, and maybe a cigarette as well. I don't smoke, for the record, I just really like drawing cigarettes. More drawings of Arnold, I guess that counts as 3 to the counter. And then I have this fountain pen, and I put green ink in it, and I just started drawing some plants with it, and it worked really well. I think that the lines just look really sort of smooth and crisp and nice. And then for Christmas I got my first gouache set, so then this is my first gouache painting, because I saw everyone painting with gouache in my animation class, and I was like, oh my god, I have to try that because it looks so fun. And it dries so quickly, which is really good for my impatience. Like, watercolour is not for me because it takes forever to dry, but gouache is perfect. It's a bit of a learning curve because it keeps drying either darker or lighter than you expect, but you know, I decided to throw all of the colours in the palette basically onto this portrait, and then this like surreal thing over here. Some more like biro sketches, just a little bit of Copic marker to make the background a bit darker, just real subtle. This was a photo that someone took of Arnold and our 2 friends Eric and Martijn when they were wearing these like Christmas elf hats, so I decided to draw that photo because I thought it was quite funny. And then for New Year's, Arnold and I were at my friend Marie's in France, and she's the one who drew these 2 drawings. So she drew a portrait of me and this other lady, and yep, some more like biro sketches. And then with this one I experimented with putting the Posca markers down first and then drawing over the top instead of the other way around, which made for some cool shapes and stuff. There's a lady with big hair and like more planty stuff with the fountain pen. And this is a storyboard that I made of this experience that I had while I was in London, and I was in this train going back to the place where I was staying, and I met this man who offered me a beer and then started telling me his whole life story. And he like told me all of these crimes that he committed, and about his dad, and about his like 2 children, daughter and son, and like he said that his son should date me, and he was about to go call him and stuff so that he could meet me. And it was just, I don't know, that was just a little teaser for the whole story, but which is too long to tell in a Sketchbook Tour video. But if you're interested in that whole story, please let me know and I'll make a separate video on it, because it was a wild experience that is definitely worth sharing. This is a sketch that I did while I was in the Rijksmuseum. There's a Rembrandt in the Dutch accent, painting that I just drew a little sketch of, and I did some sketches of his hands from his paintings, which are always quite nice. This is a drawing that I started with that like flesh coloured pen, and I was planning to finish it later, but then I actually quite like it just like this, so I left it. And, like, the brown paper is quite a nice skin tone. And then I got this black pen that is completely opaque at all times, which is quite difficult for me because I like keeping everything so sketchy. But the moment that every line that you put down is opaque, you have a lot less room for mistakes, which is quite, it's fun to try, just to get your confidence up and really think about what lines you're putting down. And these are some pencil sketches of my dog. She was sleeping. I think around this time I was back in the Netherlands after 5 months of being abroad. And another drawing of Arnold. It was like the only successful one on that page apparently. And yeah, this is like, if you ever make mistakes in your sketchbook, just like stick a bit of paper over it and draw over it if you want. There's no rules. And then I was working on some illustrations for Roald Dahl. I had this assignment or like briefing for these advertising awards, the YCN awards, and I made 3 illustrations from Roald Dahl stories. So that was a lot of fun because I read those books as a kid and they were really inspiring and sort of like cued my imagination and stuff. So it was cool revisiting them, like rereading them and making illustrations. And I animated them as well. Every time that like the light turned on and off in the room, a different word that Roald Dahl coined would appear, because he was quite a wordsmith and he had some cool words and stuff. So I'll put those, link it in the description as well if you want to check them out in more detail. Here are some sketches again with the pencil and the white Posca marker. And this is quite a vulgar image, and I'm sorry that you have to see this. Maybe I'll put a little like censor bar over it. It's really not that bad, but it's not pleasant. It's a drawing that my friend Noel did like at my leaving party. He drew my sketchbook and did this horrible, horrible picture. But on the left I've got a sketch of Mrs. and Mr. Twit. Again for those Roald Dahl sketches. And these are some other sketches that people did in my sketchbook at my leaving party. And here we go, another naked woman done in pencil. And another Mr. Twit. Just, it's really fun trying to draw truly ugly characters, because you don't get the opportunity to do that very often. I guess you do get the opportunity, but it doesn't occur to me very often to challenge myself to a truly, truly ugly character. So that was a lot of fun. And there's this witch character in this interesting sort of pose and a nice curled hand. Some more sketches done in mechanical pencil, I think. And then I did this drawing where I realised that I hadn't, for the last few pages, attempted to do a full like illustration in my sketchbook. So I did this one with different sized black pens and a little bit of green for the background forest thing. So yeah, there's this, again, kind of like ugly witch. And then like experimenting with getting some texture with that black pen. And this floral woman. And I did some gouache sketches that I did on separate pieces of paper, and then I stuck them in here later because it's nice to have them all in one place. So yeah, some gouache sketchings, and this guide that I did with a green marker, and also because this marker bled through the paper, I couldn't use the other side. It's nice to like stick something over the top and still use that page. So this is another gouache sketch that I put black pen over to get some like definition afterwards. And here's this wine mom, and this gouache one was just like experimenting with doing the line art with the paint and getting some cool colour variation going. And this is quite a cool character, I think. It's got an interesting nose. Again, like colour combinations and stuff with gouache. I just like how matte it looks as well when it's dry. And then I got quite obsessed with this yellow tone. It actually started because I accidentally put way too much paint on the palette, and then I just used it to fill the whole page and did this sketch over the top. This was like preliminary sketching for the art school project that I'm doing at the moment, which is all about like flesh and anatomy and nakedness and like dissecting and stuff like that. So yeah, stay tuned for more information on that. I'm planning to do a whole video just about that because it's quite a long story, but I'm working on this big mural at the moment, and you can check out my Instagram for more like photos and teasers and stuff for the mural. Anyway, I won't give too much away, but yeah, basically working with anatomy and stuff and like really bright pop colours so that you have all these grotesque images and stuff, but because everything is so colourful and saturated, it doesn't gross you out, if you know what I mean. So yeah, another gouache experiment and some brush pen stuff, and then this one's a little lewd. I'll show it for about a second. Just in case random people pick up my sketchbook and are shocked. I've got a little post-it note over that. And then I did the project to do with Arabic text language, which is a really cool thing that I found out about recently, which is where the Arabic language is basically translated onto an English keyboard, and they use English letters and numbers to write in Arabic basically, and they just pick the letters and numbers and stuff to look the most similar to Arabic symbols. So I did some typography experiments with using like keyboard keys, using a combination of gouache and those Posca markers, the paint markers. And I made a couple of cool posters out of that, so I'll put those here in post-editing if you're interested in how those ended up looking. But yeah, that was pretty fun. I haven't worked with typography in quite a while, so did some tests for if it was handwritten as well. These ones are back to basics, back to normal, just like doing some sketches in pen and then getting that Posca and getting some colour in. This is for my project again, trying to experiment with like expanding the body, I guess, and like slicing and letting it, I don't know, exposing parts. Sketches with Poscas again. Like pretty much my last sketchbook was filled with highlighter and this one is filled with Poscas, which is also pretty nice because this paper isn't very thick, and stuff like gouache and Poscas, they sit on top of the paper rather than soaking through, so it's pretty efficient for in sketchbooks and stuff. And this is my sort of Renaissance sketch that I did. Did a little page full of random heads with my fountain pen. And then got this mechanical pencil, new one I think, and started sketching with that and putting the white behind it to really make the figures pop out. And this was when I was visiting Melbourne for a little while, and I did this landscape drawing thing while I was sitting in a park, which is always quite fun if you're travelling to draw the things around you as well as take photos, because the drawings really allow you to stop and appreciate, and then it's something nice to look back on as well. And then my friend Kathy said something interesting about how she wondered like who named Earth, who called our planet Earth. So then I had this concept for the man who named Earth, and I tried to do some sketches of this like mythical little man with a big sun hat and stuff. And I tried a few different things, and I think I like this one the best, even though he looks kind of like a cowboy. But yeah, I didn't end up really landing on anything because I just went too many different ways, I think. But yeah, it was still fun to experiment with. And then I did some hand studies with cigarettes, because that's super edgy. This like slice again with really bright colours and this really sad woman. I did a character design for D&D, and I'll show the finished version of that here as well, because I did a digital, like a digital drawing with colours and stuff as well. Here I did an experiment with Posca markers where I sort of tried to abstract the body and make it like disintegrate or fade away into an abstract shape. So yeah, it looks like a woman in the clouds, sort of subliminal messaging. And then I did the same thing but with two bodies sort of merging together. Did some more sketches. These are all from memory with like biro and the Posca marker. Then more plants and stuff with that fountain pen, because it just feels really nice to glide the pen across the paper, and with these plants you can just sort of do a lot of squiggles and it's just quite therapeutic or something. This woman is growing out of the ground or was just buried, I don't know. This was another experiment I did with the Poscas where I tried to make a silhouette and then make it look like it's backlit with the white Posca. Another gouache one where I used the black pen to define it post painting. And then these ones are quite nice. I did a lot of dog drawings for a little while, and I animated a couple as well. And I just recently put those on Redbubble, so you can buy them as stickers or as t-shirts or as mugs and stuff like that. And I did 5 different dog designs, and I just bought all 5 for myself, so that when I get my new sketchbook, because I just ordered one online, I can put all those on the cover and decorate it and stuff. And then I did a couple little environment sketches, because I realised I hadn't done those in quite a while, and they're not particularly good, but it's good to just like keep up a little bit of variety. You can tell from this page that I had art block for a little while, because I just did really ugly random stuff. And then got back into it through this strong woman, Strunk. And then here's another gouache painting, and this is Arnold again. This gouache painting is a nice like combination of colours, I think. The composition and stuff isn't particularly great or anything, but it was a nice practice. And here we've got a bunch of silhouettes where I only coloured the nips. So it's a white series of white like silhouettes with the little nipples in red, which is quite nice. Oh yeah, this is the life drawing that I did of Arnold. This is when he was visiting in New Zealand about a month ago now. He came to New Zealand to visit me for a few weeks. And here's another life drawing I did of him with pencil and then the Posca markers. And we went to Quarantine Island for a weekend, which is this little island in the Otago Harbour by Dunedin. And it's basically small enough that you can walk around the whole island in one day. And it's got a cave and it's got like sheep and it's got a graveyard as well, because it was used to quarantine people when they immigrated to New Zealand. You know, back when everyone came down in the boats. But yeah, nowadays you can just like go visit there and it just feels like this famous 5 like mystery island. So we had cool adventures there and did this drawing just like inspired by the nature over there. This is a drawing of Arnold, and this is another drawing that I did of Arnold, but unfortunately I forgot about it and then used Copics on the other side and they totally bled through and ruined the image. But I did take a photo before that happened, so I'll put that here as well. So basically this exercise is where you make some random shapes and then with the Copic markers, and then you draw over the top and try to think of either figures or whatever that fit that shape. And these bottom 3 were drawn by Arnold as well. And this is like some nice perspective practice and this weird pose with like ballet shoes. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Another drawing of Arnold. These cool like nipple tassels. And some cool hand studies that I did, and this guy is really confident in his body or something. I did some mouth studies on this side with some weird expressions and stuff. And this is the last page of the sketchbook where I did this woman with all these different sort of hands and stuff floating around, which is quite cool. Again, like really surreal and stuff, but I thought it was a good page to end on. There's like technically one left, but I'll just leave it there. So yeah, that was my sketchbook tour number 3. I hope you enjoyed. And my next sketchbook is going to be another one of these, Canson 180 I think it's called, because it's got the like fabric back so that you can open it flat and everything. And it was pretty nice, so I thought I'll just order another one of these and then put my dog stickers on the front like I mentioned. But yeah, until then, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!